we're going to be discussing the biology and control of ghost ant, Tapinoma, melanocephalum, all on this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast.
Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek Podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek Podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. I am your host, Frank Hernandez, here every week discussing all things pests. Hey, Merry Christmas, everybody. It's the December 24th edition of the Pest Geek Podcast, and we're going to kick this sucker off discussing ghost ants. Couple of housekeeping things. I want to just thank a bunch of people for this year. It's been an amazing year, and just all the listeners, those that contributed to the podcast, those that are going to contribute to the podcast. We've got an exciting lineup for you starting January 1st. So I want you to stay tuned because what we have coming is going to be industry changing, revolutionary, borderline heresy to some people. But anyway, we're going to do it because that's what I do. And I just wanted to, if we got a group now, we got a group for the listeners of the podcast. So if you want to join the group, join the discussion, discuss openly what I publish and what I put out. And if you can contribute, add to it, critique it, whatever you feel is necessary to get the best information out there. I'm not interested in my opinion. I'm interested in truth. Every time that I ever had a debate, and I debate lots of things with people, I always try to debate from the perspective of gaining a true understanding. In other words, it's never for me to say, this is my view, and I want you to accept it, and if you don't, well, I'll just pick up my ball and go home. I argue from the perspective of, let's get to the truth. And when I discuss theology or biblical things, it is always to get to the truth. Some people have one view, another person has another view. And what did the Bible and the Bible readers intend you to understand when they wrote scripture? And that's the biggest problem that we have, that so many people are stuck in their traditions, not looking at the facts. And in pest control, we got the same problem. People are stuck to their traditions, their way of doing things, and nobody wants to really change a lot of the things that we know we need to change in the industry to make it better for us, especially for us, the small operator. So we've got a lot of things coming that is going to help the small operator, the individual technician. This podcast is primarily focused on that. If you were running a 10 crew company, you pretty much got things under control. You know what you're doing. It's the small guy or the individual guy working for a company that's getting no training, that's getting no real information, that is struggling. The individual owner that is struggling to keep up and be successful in business over a long period of time. We got to develop tools and things to help that individual, and we're doing that. I'm focused on doing that this year and next year on things we're working on. So stay tuned. Join the group. It's the Pest Geek Podcast listeners group. Look for us on Facebook, and also go to our Facebook page. We got a Facebook page. And our website. Our website has a new section. We added the video section. So we're going to be putting videos out there from a lot of different sources to help you. So there's a video section on the podcast. Go check it out and see what videos we are producing. Some of them are on our channel. Some of them are on somebody else's channel, but I think the information is very good. And then we also have an independent blog that we're putting out now. And we got people contributing from all over the country to the blog, and we're going to be publishing that soon. So go ahead, check us out, pestgeekpodcast.com. And without further ado, we're going to be discussing this little ant known as the ghost ant. Now, the closest relative to the ghost ant, for those of you up in the north, is going to be the odorous house ant. Okay, so they're similar in biology, but they're similar because they're family members. But they kind of behave down here a lot differently. For one, the colonies are a lot smaller, but they're multiple colonies. But we're going to be discussing this. One of the things that I always look at is the taxonomy of an ant, or the taxonomy of an insect that I'm dealing with, to understand the genus and species. And if I can deal with genus and species, I usually have very good success, even if I'm having trouble finding a solution. I understand that I deal a lot with ornamental pests. And a lot of the time in this industry, there aren't that many people in my city, in Miami, that are ornamental experts. Most people are focused on lawn spraying. They're focused on just your standard insects, fleas, roaches, ants. And there's some people that are doing, a lot of people are doing lawn, but very few people are actually, and so I have a hard time when I started in this business getting the information. Nobody could really give me good information. And if I copied what other people were doing, I saw too much failure, and I decided to take a different route, and I decided to go into studying agronomy and studying a lot of the things that they do in botany and in plants, which helped me a ton to deal with what I do now. So this is important that you understand the tribe, the genus, the species, the subfamily, and the family that they're in. You need that family to understand if you're dealing with a pest. And a lot of you guys that have been doing this a long time know this. There's a ton of people listening to me that I take for granted sometimes, that I've been, and I keep repeating this, that I've been in the industry a long time, and I've done a lot of things, and some people have never experienced a lot of the things that I talk about. Nobody's told them. And so I'm really focusing the podcast a lot on helping a lot of people that are just getting started, and that they would be able to understand very easily what we're doing. But the subfamily, Tapinoma, the genus, and melanocephalum, the species, when you're doing studying, especially like on Google Scholar, or you're looking at it, you might be able to find other species, even if in your area there isn't any other with another genus that are similar. And that will help you understand how that insect behaves. You always want the exact match, but if you can't get it, maybe sometimes I've had insects, that I've been dealing with, that there just isn't a whole lot of info out there. And I've had to do a lot of guesswork and trial and error, but I've done it on a scientific basis by just dealing with a similar genus. And that really, really helps. Okay. So how do colonies, they're polygyne, unicolonial colonies a lot of the time. The colonies, let me explain this. The colonies will generally form through budding. And budding is when a couple of females, take a couple of workers and their brood and the egg and the larvae and the pupae, and they move it and leave the established colony and create a new nesting site. And this little ant is notorious for this. This little ant is so tiny that it's why it's called a ghost ant. A lot of the times it does get confused with pharaoh ant because of their size. So you really, really have to get to know it and look at it under a microscope and look at the body parts, look at the antenna, look at how many segments, whether it has a club or not, and really then look at the all the body parts, the gaster, everything on this ant, to really, 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 really understand it and differentiate it. But that's when it occurs, and what they do is they fragment, what is known as fragmenting in the industry, where they'll take and just move the colony or create a new one, and they're doing these multiple times. I mean, you can have several hundred of these nets all over the house. I mean, I've had homes that have been dealing with this thing for a year now, and what they've managed to do is make it worse by spraying everything with the wrong products. And I've had homes where they've had 3 and 4 companies deal with this, and they're all dealing with it. Well, I ask them, what have they done? It's well, they just come in and they spray and they put bait. They spray and they put, and that's the problem, that people, we don't know what they're doing, but if they haven't controlled it in 3 to 4 months, then something is really wrong. And that's the biggest problem that you're having in areas. This little ant is being found all over the southeastern United States. I mean, we're talking all the way to Texas, okay? And it loves tropical, subtropical environments, and it's able to deal with other types of environments. In the southern part of Alabama has it. Mississippi has it. So it's moving, and I believe if you're looking at some of the reports on climate change, as things, change, and, we can have this argument all day long, whether it's man-made or natural, but a lot of stuff is changing. And we've experienced it down here with a lot of insects that we weren't having trouble with. And all of a sudden, we're seeing temperatures in the 80s here in South Florida in the middle of summer. In the middle of winter and in December. And we get 10 inches of rain in December, which is totally odd. We've had that 2 years ago. It created just an enormous amount of havoc with diseases and on lawn. We're having more diseases on lawn this year than I've ever seen because of these things. So this is something that we need to look at and start getting reports of invasive ants like this one that are coming into your area, and keep it. What I used to do is I get all the alerts from my state on every single pest, and that helped me keep ahead of what's coming and start training on it, start understanding it way in advance, a year in advance before it happened. And that helped me be ready when it did happen, when a lot of people were like, what do you do? What do you do? I'm dying here. We weren't dying. And this is an important part of you being a professional, is understanding what's coming. The development of workers from egg to adult typically lasts between 16 to 52 days. Okay. There are 4 nymphal stages. Very difficult to see, very difficult to observe, but they're there. This is important that you understand how long it takes for one thing to develop. How long does it take for that egg to develop? How many eggs are these things making? The average ant is producing 5.3 eggs a day. Okay, now you take that and multiply, because remember, they have multiple queens and multiple colonies. And that's easily 100 eggs a day in some homes that I've seen, with as many nests as we've been able to track. What happens is they break into sub-colonies and they create multiple nesting sites, and they even exchange individuals back and forth along the odor trails. So this is an amazing ant to try to control. I did one just last week. The trail inside the home was approximately 30-something feet across in multiple nests that I found in the windowsills. And what we have a lot here is, a lot of people, why don't you baseboard spray? Well, a lot of the reason we don't baseboard spray is because we don't have baseboards. We have marble floors, and we have white marble floors in a lot of these homes. And if you spray a product on that floor, you're going to get all kinds of hazes and problems, and people are going to get upset. Crack and crevice, void treatments. We have a lot of tile, Italian tile, ceramic tile, a lot of marble floors in a lot of the homes. I would say probably over 50% of our floors of the customers, we tend to have marble floors. So, it's very difficult to do a lot of the things that other people do around the country when you have no baseboards. Like I said, the colonies are broken. They exchange individuals. Now, ghost ants are very opportunistic nesters. Okay, so they will move their nests constantly. That's one of the problems that we're having, is that people are causing these nests to move all over the place. One of the things that you have to understand is they're not a glucose feeding ant. They are omnivorous diet. So this is typical with what is known as tramp ants. Okay, this is what is one of the tramp ants. And they've been observed. Okay, check this out. They've been observed all over the world. They're in many countries, and they've been observed in destroying eggs of the common housefly. I mean, these guys, when you look at how they behave, these guys they can take over an area being so small, and they become the dominant ant. This has been reported. We're going to give you a ton of reports on this. There's a lot of data from around the world on this ant, so that you're able to get the education. But common housefly, Musca domestica, the larvae they've been found destroying it. They've been found diamondback moth larvae destroying that. They've been dealing with two-spotted spider mites, aphids in glass houses, western flower thrips. They frequently observe tending honeydew-producing hemipteran pests. So that's common. If you've got hemipteran pests, you got shrubs with sucking, piercing insects, you need to tend to those, because you're going to have a difficult time controlling this ant if you don't deal with the shrubs. And a lot of you guys don't have lawn and ornamental licenses or certifications, and you're going to struggle with this ant if you're not dealing with that. So we treat all the shrubs systemically to deal with this problem. Dispersing, they've been found dispersing grassroot millipedes on sugarcane. So using sprays inside the home, not recommended because of what can cause the movement. And we're still unclear of which pyrethroids cause the movement or cause them to fracture. Ghost ant colonies, they're not like mega colonies, but typically between 100 and 1,000 ants. Unlike the OHA, which can make up 10,000 ants in a colony. Like I said, they occupy several sites, and they can exchange workers. So they're very, very adapted. What they found in Brazil, in what we're finding here, is that newly established residential areas that have a lot of mobility make it easy for these guys to colonize and move around. And what we're finding with new developments or modern developments is we're not finding it a lot in the older ones. It's mostly in the new ones. So if you got a lot of new construction in that area, you can be prepared for this. And what else? Let's see here. Let's talk about egg laying. Large numbers. They usually will hatch 2 to 4 weeks on the larvae. Lifespan of a queen is only a few weeks. All right. Where are they outside? Well, they are in potted plants. Look for that. Look under trees, dead material, in palm fronds. They're going to find them inside palm fronds, under potted plants, under stones, anywhere there's organic matter. You're going to find this little ant outside. What we've done is based on pest biology. If you're selling a one-time service for this type of ant, you're going to shoot yourself in the head. You're going to get a callback. The chances of you getting real control in one shot is going to be very, 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 because of the multiple colonies. What people are doing is I'm finding homes that people are telling me, we've had 3 companies. They can't control it. Well, they're doing a one-time service and then putting you on a quarterly program after that, and you're calling them back and calling them back and calling them back. Callbacks are terrible for our business. You need to be able to charge accordingly for this type of service and be able to charge for 2 to 3 follow-ups to get the control. And understanding and explaining that to the client that there's no way to get control of this ant in one shot. The chances are very slim to none. We have been not able to do it. So what we know is we will schedule the follow-ups to avoid the callbacks. In one, you're being proactive. The other one, you're slacking off. And so be proactive and understand that if the customer can't afford it and they can't afford multiple services, and you're going to put them on a program that you're going to be dealing with this for long. We've had 2 properties that one took us 6 months to control. The other has taken us over a year. And it was a brand new construction and a brand new development. It's a nightmare with those areas because we got 0 lot homes and they're very close together. And we've had to change a lot of our protocols to either monthly or bi-monthly to deal with this. I got a little video on there that's pretty cool. I've got a bunch of studies. University of Florida entomology is one of my favorites, and IFAS for all kinds of insects. You should have yours from your local university, but there's a ton of links on it. There's also the elimination of Tapinoma, ghost ant infestation using imidacloprid bait. Interaction between ghost ant and invasive mealybugs. The case, and they make a case for that. And ant structure in neighborhoods, different urban profiles in the city of Sao Paulo, Brazil. This is fascinating, where they find that they did a 10-year study on this, and they find that these ants will favor urbanized neighborhoods with greater disturbance. So they become dominant because they specialize in moving around. They're easily disturbed and move around. So they thrive in neighborhoods where people are hustling and bustling versus more of the countryside where there's not a whole lot of stuff going on. Sucrose triggers of honeydew preference in ghost ant. Description of the larvae of ghost ant. First report of ghost ant and occurrences of the ghost ant in urban homes in Korea. Invasive, a rare guest, increasingly common indoor pest in Europe. Feeding behavior of ghost ants, and the description of the larvae. So get this. It's got great resources on there. I've done all the work for you. Makes it really easy for you to study. You don't have to get a malice guide. You don't have to buy all these stuff. A lot of this is online. You can get more information online today than you can by owning a book. So I personally have never used a lot of the books that I actually bought, but I get more of the information from the studies that are being published. How to control it? Well, it's actually pretty easy, the process, but it takes a long time. It's simple, but not easy. I should rephrase that. It's very simple. This is where everybody falls apart. What we've done is on the exterior perimeter, we usually use a Termidor application or Taurus or Fuse, Fipronil, any Fipronil product. On the outside, I like using it at the 3% versus the 6% because I can get a bigger coverage area. I can get a 2 foot versus a 1 foot up or down, and I can use it up to 18 inches around windows and doors with the Fipronil. So I like using it at the lower rate because we have a lot of gardens up against the home where there's mulch, and they tend to be in there. So we've done that on every initial now, and that really within 7 to 10 days really stops it. Doing it that way. Indoor, we can use Alpine if it's really heavy infestation, crack and crevice. If not, we're going with we used exclusively Thickwood, which works really, really well by itself. If you got sensitive accounts and you need a boric acid, or you're doing an organic service or a natural service inside, the Thickwood in the Max Force buffet stations, we do it at 3 or 4 different, like a 1%, a 2%, a 5%, and like that. And it really seems to work really well. Plus we put it in cracks and crevices. Also Max Force Quantum, works really well, for this ant. And we're currently trying OptiGuard. Now here's the beef I've had with OptiGuard from the beginning. I tried it when they first came out. My biggest beef is it does work. I don't have a problem with the product. I have a problem with the way it comes out. It looks like hardened gelatin turds that you have to leave all over the place. You can't hide it. It's very difficult. Sometimes it'll run. It comes out watery. When I put the plunger in with the manual, the little manual plunger, and you pull it back out, it pulls the whole thing out. So the whole turd of OptiGuard comes out of the tube. I mean, it's not a very good product to use in the field. It's very cumbersome. I don't like the way it behaves. I wish these guys would fix this because it's been like that forever. That's my only beef I have with the product. It's just a way for an applicator. You can't really make precise, exact applications of little tiny dots and little holes because of the way this thing comes out. So my number one has been, if I'm having trouble, and I usually will, if I have a heavy infestation, I'm going to use 2. I'm going to use the Thickwood and the Quantum, together because of their feeding habits. They could change it. Or they prefer one over the other. Ants are weird that way. So this is where people are failing. They're using either one spray, or they're using a indoor spray, or they're just using like one bait. You need to use a combination. So there you go. That combination will work well for OHA. From what I understand that people are telling me also. I don't have any OHA down here. I have no experience with it. But it is in the same genus. So we should be able to get a decent control with that. Hey guys, it's been fun. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you in the new year. Have a great one.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.